So, greetings. Welcome to Hardfire TV on Brooklyn Free Speech Media. I'm your host, Derek Sacerdote. Today we have a special show looking at why people are leaving New York State in unprecedented numbers,
Right.
which will give us a chance to look at economic freedom and the ease of doing business here.
Right.
Our guest today is Cameron Weber.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching.
Cameron, this is very impressive, is a double PhD
Oh,
in economics and history.
okay.
And before PhD studies in don't be modest, in New York City,
Before I met you.
was chief of financial oversight and coordination at U.S. State Department. Welcome
Right.
to the show, Cameron.
Thank you, Derek, for having me.
You're quite welcome. So this puzzles me as a lifetime resident.
Right.
It puzzles me that if this is supposedly, by all accounts, the most vibrant city in the country, if not the world,
Yeah.
why would the state in which the city is located be
Right.
losing population
Right.
in this mass exodus? Is it? Are there any natural reasons? Is it the weather? Is it the?
Well, yeah. Right. So, the reason we're having this show is to look at when was this? March 21st. March 21st, 2019, on the front page of the New York Post. Do you read that? I read that from time to time.
I read it when it's on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I read it from time to time when the New York Times doesn't get delivered. So said the poll says that 41% of people who were polled want to leave New York State. 41% of people are unhappy living in the state and want to leave because costs are too high. So right. So now we're going to explore why costs are too high.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Because I mean, as a layperson,
Yeah.
there could be so many reasons why that would be. Is there any fundamental reason why things are simply expensive here? Is it something that's
Well, yeah. I wanted
avoidable?
Yeah. I mean, people want to live. New York State itself is highly regulated, overtaxed. New York State gives more corporate cronyism than any other state. In other words, they give more tax breaks to corporations to locate in New York State than any other state, which means therefore then that everyone else has to pay more taxes. And when you pay more taxes, that means the price of everything goes up. New York City sales tax, New York State income tax, New York State sales tax, regulation is very difficult. There's many reasons why costs are high, and that has to do with fiscal policy and regulation. Yeah.
So my question is.
But I wanted to say
okay.
about
Yeah.
Right, and so creeping socialism is the answer. The more stuff the state does, the more that costs. And anyway, here's something funny from the Foundation for Economic Education. AOC's mother joining the ranks of Americans leaving tax-punishing states, showing the beauty of federalism.
AOC, that sounds familiar.
That's a recent politician.
Is she a fiscal conservative?
The Green New Deal is the complete opposite of fiscal conservatism. But
That's ironic in some ways that her mother would be.
Yeah, right. Her mother. Yeah, right. Her mother.
And what is her mother's stated reason?
Her mother
for moving?
says, after her kids graduated from college, Bianca Ocasio-Cortez decided that it was time to move to Florida, stating, "I was paying $10,000 a year in real estate taxes up north. I'm paying $600 a year in Florida. It's stress-free down here."
I could see how that could be a draw to Florida.
Yeah. You.
I could see that.
You also have property in a place that has less taxes as well.
Pennsylvania is
also
is also highly taxed.
Yeah.
So it's not that desirable.
Right. Yeah.
And highly regulated too.
Right. So the beauty of federalism. What that means is that different states have the right to have different tax policies and different regulatory policies. So an example is less than 1/10 of real estate tax between Florida and New York. So we'll look at how states did what are some of the ways that the Cato Institute or other people who look at economic freedom, how they look at how competitive states are in terms of the ease of doing business and economic freedom. Yeah.
So when you're looking at the flow of people from state to state.
Yeah, right.
So it's not necessarily a matter of, I can understand, well, Florida might have a better climate,
Right.
you know, weather-wise.
Exactly.
I can understand many reasons why you may want to move from one place to the other for market reasons, fundamental reasons.
Yeah.
But you're saying that many of the reasons that people are traveling are man-made reasons, as in it's for example,
Exactly.
for example, the price of gasoline
In New York is so high.
Has a certain price naturally because of its scarcity.
Right, right,
So
right,
if that
right.
was balanced,
That's a very good point. Anything that's a man-made problem can be corrected by man.
Right.
Exactly, exactly.
So essentially, you have states and cities, if I understand you correctly, they're
Yeah, yeah.
competing by manipulating the laws to try and bring in the kinds of people that they want.
Right.
The kind of businesses that they want.
Entrepreneurial
Or
people.
get rid of those that they don't want.
I guess, yeah, tax the rich. What happens when you tax the rich? Well, then the rich go elsewhere, and isn't the whole idea to create wealth?
I'm not saying that they're doing it in a rational way, but I'm saying that they have that power. They have the power by manipulating the laws.
Well, we have a friend who created a payday loan business, right? He was tired of working in corporate America or something like that, and a friend in common, I won't mention his name, and he wanted to open a payday loan business, and he couldn't do it in New York because the regulations were so high, so he had to do it in New Jersey. For example, he couldn't open the business he wanted to open in New York because the regulations were so high. So he did it in New Jersey, even though New Jersey has terrible regulations too.
But it was still preferable.
Yeah, yeah.
So in other words, that business would not have thrived in New York. I could.
He couldn't even. We couldn't even open the business.
I would think he might have a few customers here if he.
Exactly, and what that does by pricing out through regulation payday loans, then those worse off on the economic scale can't find money to pay their rent and their phone bill. Exactly. So what that hurts the worse off. Exactly. So Jim's helping the worse off in New Jersey. He couldn't do it in his own home. Yeah. Right.
In my personal experience.
Yeah. I want to know. Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah. You're also a businessman. Right?
Yeah, I'm a small businessman, and it's an obstacle course trying to navigate the regulations and the rules, and I'm used to it, but only when I speak to people from elsewhere do I realize how difficult it is here that I'm accustomed to.
Yeah. But nonetheless, you're staying in.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you understand that it's a game.
It is a game.
That it's a game, and
it's a game called democracy.
Yeah, and you're essentially trying to outwit the regulation. You're trying to find a way that you can still be profitable.
Yeah, that's called regulatory arbitrage.
Yeah.
Give us some examples of the problems you've had as a business person trying to do business in New York. Permits, taxes, licenses, transportation. Tell us some of your stories.
The first thing that anyone says to me when they come to New York for a short stay. What do they say if you have friends from out of state and they come here? What are some of the first things that they notice when they speak to you? I know what my friends say, but
well, I have a friend from New Mexico, where I'm from. He came in. Oh, there's just too many people in New York, for example.
Okay.
Oh, look at all the double parking. Well, that's street cleaning. Or they allow dogs on the subway and you can eat on the subway. I'm like, yes, isn't that great? And look at the skyline is beautiful. They love it here, right?
My friends, they'll say, well, where's like the main roads where you can like really drive, and where can you make progress? How do you travel like if you have like a job or something?
Oh, you can't.
Where's the real big roads? And
you can't.
And I'm looking around subway. We have no more main roads. Our major roads are side streets, and it seems like we've over the course of my lifetime, roads have gotten narrower. They've eliminated lanes.
Well, the reason for that is so you have to use public transportation, and the reason for that is because public transportation is public labor unions, and so that keeps the voting the city politician voting machine is forcing people out of private vehicles into mass transportation. We actually didn't we do a whole show on that? Yeah, Derek and I did a whole show on that about
On parking tickets.
yeah, and how to fight parking tickets. But back to your example about transportation. I recently was in Louisville, Kentucky, and took an Uber from the airport to downtown, and the Uber cost about $15, right? And the other day, my partner and I had some friends come over to film our country rock blues band at our co-op, and our friend is slightly disabled, and he had to take an Uber. He would have taken an Uber, and that Uber would have cost him $100. The same length of a trip would have cost in Louisville would cost $15. It would cost $100 in New York City.
Well, if you figure the fact that
Yeah.
in New York, with the speed cameras, with the efforts taken to increase congestion, with the narrow roads, with the endless construction projects.
Do you think it's all forced congestion so that they can eventually do a congestion tax?
I think it's more a matter of make it as unpleasant as possible, so that it's people will gradually shift away towards, as you were saying, towards the MTA and
yeah.
Just think about how many jobs a person can do in one day. I mean, I might have
right,
an Uber driver
exactly.
or the kind of
For
work
you,
that I
it's
do,
especially important.
where you have a few trips that are 5 to 7 miles across. Somewhere else that you could probably do 4 or 5 jobs a day. Sometimes here I can only do 2 or 3 because those short trips take endless amounts of time, and the whole day is burned. So think about the cost of the Uber.
Well, for me,
if they're driving 5 miles an hour.
Well, yeah, but you can't take an Uber because you have to carry equipment.
Exactly,
Like
I can't take MTA because I have things to carry. It's
well, I enjoy
an impediment.
I enjoy my commute for 1 hour on the F train from Brooklyn to Queens to go teach, because I get on the train and I can read for an hour and get off. So I have no complaints. My only complaint is that I have to plan an extra hour, right?
But if you don't have that time, if you're in a
hurry,
hurry,
it would be a nightmare. Here's also from that same post. Let's see. If the MTA needs more money, get it from existing state revenue. New York already owns America's heaviest tax burden, spending nearly $9,000 a year in public funds for every man, woman, and child in the state. City Hall spends nearly $11,000 more per city resident. No wonder the poll says that 41% of residents say they cannot afford to live here. Yeah, and the MTA labor costs are now set to grow 11% over 3 years, where employee health care will increase 24% over that same 3 years. But back to economic freedom and how that is measured, and why people are moving from the high-taxed, high-regulating states to the lower-taxed, less regulated states. Do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, I could imagine why they would do that.
We have a map.
Yeah, which states would you say are the most economically free?
Yeah, we have a map, Derek. You'll see from the map the darker states on the West Coast, California, Oregon, Washington, are highly taxed and regulated, have less economic freedom. And then you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see New York, New Jersey.
Is that Vermont?
Is that Vermont?
Vermont, I'm shocked.
And how about Pennsylvania? Is that Pennsylvania?
No, Pennsylvania is actually a light color.
Yeah, I thought Pennsylvania...
It's not been my experience, but I see Maryland is pretty dark.
Right.
Delaware.
Yeah, Maryland.
Rhode Island.
Yeah, well, Maryland is not a right-to-work state, where Virginia is. So you'll see, so a lot of these... And so what people are doing, they're moving from those highly taxed, highly regulated, low economic freedom states to mostly the Southwest and to Florida. Like AOC's mother. But that's a typical New Yorker thing anyway.
Yeah,
Florida.
some of the other,
it's like a stereotype.
Yeah, my curiosity is are there fundamental reasons why those particular states would have those policies?
Yeah.
And why you'd have the greater economic freedom in say Arizona and Utah, and I see
Why is
Montana?
that?
Is there
You know,
a
you know-
social reason? Is it a climatic reason?
Well, at least for me, I'm the first one in my family to actually, well, except from a long time ago, to actually live in New York.
Mhm.
And why do I live in New York? Because great education opportunities. I studied a PhD here, meet some interesting people, better musicians I've ever had to play with in my life. Be able to do the TV show and get good, intelligent people, and people want to move to California. Why? For the movie industry and for the weather and that. People move to the Southwest for the weather and for the economic freedom, and because they're not micro-regulated in everything they do, really, pretty much. And for weather reasons.
But there's no fundamental reason why those states should necessarily require greater regulation.
Or less.
Yeah, or less, yeah.
Yeah, somebody once told me big cities need big government.
That sounds familiar.
I don't know.
Because you have New York and California with these high population centers. Is that why?
You're asking questions I don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't we look at how the Cato Institute measures economic freedom, and just look at these categories and discuss them,
Yeah,
so that we know at least
what they're basing it on.
Yeah, at least materialistically or economically why why in the United States people are moving. I once heard that the population mass center of the United States is moving 1 inch to the southwest every hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
Soon it'll be in the ocean.
Well, that's a whole different story. Okay. So let's look at how it's calculated, how the Cato Institute calculates economic freedom. Fiscal policy, taxation, state taxation, local taxation, government consumption and investment is 8%. So fiscal policy is 30% of the index, and that's state tax, local tax, and then government spending, and the size of government employment and government debt. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So that's fiscal policy.
Yeah.
And the Cato Institute also does a ranking every year of the state's governors on fiscal policy. Those governors who tax less and spend less get a better grade. Those that tax more and spend more get a worse grade. And you'll see that the Cato ranking on the state's governors corresponds to the economic freedom of the states, right? Okay, so fiscal policy is 30% of how economic freedom is calculated. And then regulatory policy is 35% of how economic freedom is calculated. Land use. I know you're big on land use freedom.
As in zoning and
zoning and right.
Where you can run a business or
where you can't. And that's one of the reasons for the high costs in New York City for housing, at least, of course, is the zoning laws.
And it would make sense that where it is permitted, prices would be much higher because they have the advantage of that restriction.
Of course, right. Oh, so it's a vested interest. Those that already own
property or businesses in those areas where they can run them,
and then contribute to campaigns, which then allow them
to continue to hold that monopoly. Great.
Wait a minute. Who's the public choice economist here? You or me?
I'm just following. The dots are there. I'm just putting them together. So.
Right. We're putting it together. So health insurance freedom is a big thing. Because health insurance is 20% of the health. The health sector is 20% of the economy in the United States, right? And a lot of that
is in insurance.
Well, it's mandated. Yeah, the Affordable Care Act was simply a way to give above normal profits to the health insurance companies. The health insurance companies wrote the Affordable Care Act. So anyway, health insurance freedom is a good portion of regulatory policy. Labor market freedom, such as the right to work law, mandatory extractions for labor unions from your paycheck is an example of that. Minimum wage, workers' compensation are all part of economic freedom or not. Whether they allow gambling is a victimless crime is also how is part of regulation. Do you allow victimless crime or not? Education tax credits for scholarships, publicly funded voucher law is also considered regulatory freedom. whether alcohol distribution and control. Some states, believe it or not, still have a monopoly on selling alcohol. I think, yeah.
I can believe that.
Asset forfeiture, how strong the asset forfeiture laws are. Marijuana legalization is 2%. So those are some of the measures the Cato Institute uses to look at economic freedom, which then helps us determine why some of those migratory patterns occur.
So we recently had this whole deal with Amazon that
in New York, yeah.
didn't work out.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of excitement that this Queens was going to get this secondary hub.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what's your take on that?
Oh, on the Amazon? Well, like I tell my students, why on earth would you want to give subsidies to the world's richest person? Right? Why should?
Well, wouldn't it make sense that
why should all of us have to pay?
The gains be of having that? Wouldn't that offset?
Why should all of us in New York, those of us who are struggling, 41% of us want to leave because it's too expensive. Why should all of us want to give tax subsidies to the world's richest person? To me, I think that's insane. Oh, and now you're asking me, is that helpful?
Yeah. It wouldn't. I mean, in theory, wouldn't the economic impact of having them here? Isn't that theoretically going to offset these?
What did they promise, Derek?
Yeah, what's the?
They promised 25,000 jobs, all at $150,000 more. I can promise you what.
Well,
Derek, I'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge.
And then revitalize the surrounding area, and think about.
Revitalizing the surrounding area simply means more Starbucks and ugly-looking hotels and condos.
Well, that's tax money, isn't it?
It's not very helpful, and it's very disruptive for those that live there. It's kicking out. That's gentrification. No, I don't think you're being funny, right?
No, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate a little bit.
New York City is attracting despite all the regulation and taxes. Google has a huge hub here. Amazon's already here. Microsoft is here. You're already having these tech companies locating in New York. I mean, there's like 40 universities within 5 square miles. 10 square miles.
So you're saying that
this is a highly educated.
This is naturally a place that, despite all of the obstacles, this is naturally a place where profit can be made for entrepreneurship.
For entrepreneurship, because you can attract good talent, and there's lots of amenities of life here. The Museum of Modern Art, Central Park, Coney Island. All of this stuff attracts people. There's no need to give huge, centrally planned, grandiose schemes to Amazon to do it. And the reason Amazon located in Washington, D.C. also was a preemptive strike against regulation. The GAFAMs, Google, Amazon, Facebook, Alphabet, and Microsoft are all highly successful, wealthy companies that therefore then the regulators want to regulate. So one of the reasons Google locates in Washington, D.C. is so that Google employees and the regulators play softball together at the Washington Mall. Therefore, they'll be less likely to regulate them.
That's smart.
Right? If you're playing softball with them, you're not going to penalize them for being successful. Maybe they're the ones bringing the beer when they're playing softball. Oh, Google's bringing the beer. We're not going to regulate them. You know what I mean? So
it makes logical sense. It's a quid pro quo.
Yeah. It's just a preemptive strike against regulation. And in New York, the reason why Google did not make it is because they would not accept unions. And I remember our mayor, what's his name? Whatever his name is, said, New York's a labor town, so Google says, or Amazon says, well, thanks,
Yeah, so...
They said we wouldn't not allow labor unions, we would just not encourage it. Right.
But as you were saying, even still, despite all of this, it is a place where you can make a profit.
Of course.
And because of its high population, because of its highly mobile population, as you said, its talent, its diverse population. I think we mentioned. Did we mention it? The diversity of population.
Are you kidding me?
The diverse
sure,
population.
sure. Yeah.
It is a place where it
you
is
can
still,
learn from
it
others.
is
Many,
still, yes, it is still possible
learn
to profit
tolerance
and to
of
innovate
course.
at all times.
Exactly.
And
The diversity allows for the innovation.
yeah, and it helps you improve your product and your service.
Of course.
So it's this is a rich topic. We could have done 3 shows on this.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But,
we just have to finish this show because this show has to show April. Right.
Wow.
So April 2019. This is our show for that. Yeah.
Great.
All right.
Great. So thank you for watching Hardfire TV on Brooklyn Free Speech Network. We look forward to seeing you at our next show. Please see our YouTube channel for more shows. Cameron,
Derek.
thank you for joining in.
Thank you, Derek, for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
What is